For my university project, I decided to tackle a huge question facing modern cities. What do you do with all the trash? And I focused on Hong Kong, one of the densest places on Earth. See, with that many people packed into one spot, you get a massive waste problem. So we're going to look at their seriously high-tech solution, a facility called iPark1.
Now, this might sound like a question from some sci-fi movie, right? But for a city like Hong Kong, this isn't fiction. It's a real ticking clock. This was the massive engineering challenge they were staring down. So, let's break down the problem. For decades, the answer in Hong Kong was pretty simple. Just bury it in a landfill. But here's the thing. Those landfills are getting full. And I mean really full. We're talking about a genuine citywide waste emergency.
So why not just build more landfills? Well, in a place like Hong Kong, space is everything. It's the most precious resource there is. The city was literally on a collision course with its own garbage. They needed a totally new plan, a real game changer.
And that game changer has a name, iPark1. The whole idea was to stop thinking of trash as a problem to be buried and instead to start seeing it as a resource. This is where some seriously cool waste-to-energy technology comes into play.
Okay, so waste-to-energy sounds pretty futuristic. What does it actually mean? You know, at its core, it's pretty straightforward. You take all that everyday trash from homes and businesses, and instead of burying it, you use an advanced thermal process to turn it into electricity. It's a total win-win. You get rid of the trash, and you generate power.
And we are not talking about a small operation here. The scale of this place is just massive. iPark1 is built to process 3,000 tons of solid waste every single day. Just try to picture that. That's a huge dent in the city's daily garbage pile.
And all that trash gets turned into a huge amount of energy. We're talking about roughly 480 gigawatt hours a year. Now that's a big number, but what does it really mean? Well, it's enough electricity to power about 100,000 homes. That's a small city's worth of power, all generated from stuff we throw away.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. Burning trash? That sounds smoky. Dirty, right? The number one concern is always going to be air pollution. So let's dive into exactly how iPark1 deals with that, because it's pretty impressive.
So is it actually safe for the air we breathe? That's the million-dollar question. And the answer is yes, but it takes some incredibly advanced technology to make it happen.
Think of it like a high-tech obstacle course for the exhaust gas. Before anything goes out the chimney, it has to pass through this intense, multi-stage cleaning system. First, it zaps the nitrogen oxides. Then it tackles acidic gases. After that, it goes after the really nasty stuff, dioxins, heavy metals. And for the grand finale, it filters out even the tiniest little particles.
And hey, the proof is in the numbers. This chart lays it all out, comparing iPark1's emission limits against both local Hong Kong standards and the super strict European Union standards. You can see it's meeting the toughest requirements out there. But check out nitrogen oxides. The plant is actually designed to be even cleaner than what the law requires.
Okay, so the air is taken care of, but that's not the whole story, right? This process uses water, and it leaves behind solid ash. So the next logical question is, where does all that go?
The way they handle water is really smart. For all the water used in the actual treatment process, they have a zero liquid discharge policy. That means every single drop is treated and recycled right there on site. Nothing gets dumped. The only thing that goes back to the sea is seawater used for cooling, and it's carefully treated and monitored to make sure it doesn't harm the marine environment.
All right, so after you burn the trash, what's left is ash. But here's the key, not all ash is created equal. The bulk of it is something called bottom ash, and the cool thing is it's non-hazardous. It can actually be recycled and used in construction materials. Then there's a much smaller amount of fly ash. Now this stuff is hazardous, so it gets treated very carefully and then disposed of in a special, safe landfill.
And you can see the breakdown right here. The huge majority of what's left is that useful, reusable bottom ash. That little slice, that's the hazardous fly ash that needs special care. So most of the solid byproduct isn't waste at all. It's a new resource.
Okay, so we've covered the nitty-gritty of air, water, and ash. Now let's pull the lens back and look at the really big questions. What about climate change? And what about the health of the people who live and work nearby?
This right here is one of the biggest climate wins of the whole project. See, when you dump trash in a landfill, it decomposes and releases a ton of methane. And methane is a super potent greenhouse gas, way worse for the climate than CO2. By burning the waste instead, iPark completely avoids creating all that methane. It's a huge deal.
So when you crunch all the numbers, it's not just a small improvement. iPark 1 actually causes a net reduction in greenhouse gases compared to landfilling. We're talking about a drop of around 440,000 tons of CO2 equivalent every single year. That is a massive positive impact.
But what about the people? Is it safe? Well, they did a super detailed health risk assessment. They looked at everything, all the different ways people could be exposed, and the conclusion was clear. The calculated health risks were found to be well within acceptable levels set by international standards. The verdict was that it's safe.
All right, so we've looked at this from all angles: air, water, land, climate, human health. So what's the bottom line? Is iPark 1 actually a good solution for the environment?
The conclusion from the official report is pretty definitive. It says that as long as all the safeguards are in place and working properly, the project is considered environmentally acceptable. But it goes even further, calling it a vital component of Hong Kong's strategy. So it's not just okay, it's essential. So what this really represents is a huge shift in thinking. It's a move away from the old-school, unsustainable model of just digging a hole and burying a problem. Instead, it's a step toward a modern approach where waste isn't just waste, it's a resource.
And that brings me to my final thought. Hong Kong is tackling its trash crisis with this amazing piece of technology. But they're not the only city running out of space. As more and more cities around the world hit their landfill limits, you've really got to ask, is this what the future of dealing with our trash looks like for all of us?